Join us on BCCTV for a new series titled Community Circle.
It's diversity, resilience, and the spirit of community.
You know, who has inspired you and why their story is important.
Person is supposed to be sitting in the bus and have a white person.
I think that you should say that because I'm thinking of Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Welcome to Community Circle. Hello viewers, how you all doing? My name is Ukela Prince and I'm glad as usual to welcome you to the Community Circle. Now, you know that we've had series of guests in the studio in the month of February and even before, you know, celebrating the Black History Month and Black Excellence. So it's indeed a beautiful day today to have one of our own that is making us proud in this nation and beyond. And yes, I should call him a young man because he's an old man. So he's a young man, and he's doing great and mighty things. You know, permit me to use those terms because he's someone we are proud of, and we have him today with us here in the studio. You know, just to also be part of those who are marking and also trying to make input as regards the Black History Month and Black Excellence. So I have with me Mr. Kingsley Madu in the studio. Now, who is Mr. Kingsley Madu? Kingsley is a Google-backed, multi-award winning serial entrepreneur that has built Canada's first all-in-one money app called Expedier. That enables users with bank accounts, cards, payments, remittance, and credit building for individuals and their businesses. Kingsley is also championing the first BIPOC-focused digital bank in Canada, and has been featured in several media outlets like the CBC. As a global leader and speaker, Kingsley captivates audiences with his powerful inspirational speeches, which you will hear some today, tagged the Unstoppable series. Kingsley has over 15,000 followers across his professional network and impacts thousands more every day. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to welcome Mr. Kingsley Madu to the studio. Kingsley, how are you doing?
Thank you, sir.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You know, you're having some white beards around now too. So is it forced measure or too much work? or maybe he's getting older now, I don't know. Definitely you're getting older.
Combination of all of them.
All of them.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Wow, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah, I don't need to ask because you look so good and
Pleasure to be here.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
So
Thank you.
meanwhile, we are proud of you for the great work you're doing, and
you,
we know that you're doing so much more. Let me start because this is Black History Month series that we are in, and for you, you know, some people have said we don't want Black History Month. What is it about Black History Month? 1 month in a year. So for you, what's your take on Black History Month?
Well, first off, thank you again for having me here.
You're welcome.
I'm deeply honored. I don't take it for granted, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Black History Month. Well, first off, again, I want to say that I appreciate the government for institutionalizing a period in a year to recognize Black excellence, right? And giving us a month, as it were, Black History Month. So that's really a great first step. And it makes a lot of sense in that sense, right? In my personal view, we are not Black 1 month of the year. We're Blacks all year round. We're Blacks every day. We are Blacks for the entire length of our life. And so one of the things that I would passionately love to see is where we transcend from having to set aside a definite period of the year, but more so to normalizing being Black. Because by setting aside a period of the time, it speaks that something isn't quite normal, right? So we want to normalize being Black in the society, right? So that's the first way that I envision it. And then secondly, for me, I mean, our elders have said it, and we know it's what it is, that you can't build a successful future without looking back, without learning from history. A wise man once said that he who does not learn from history is bound to repeat its mistakes.
That's right.
Right? But you also cannot build a great future by leaning exclusively on the past. We look at it, we pick its lessons, and then we build a greater future. And that's me saying that when are we going to start talking about black future?
Black future.
Yes. When are we going to start talking about that greater vision, that greater purpose that we all have within us, right? The value and the impact that we bring to the table as blacks, the greatness that each of us possesses, and the things that we can do with that greatness. For me, I would love more to talk about the black future.
The black future.
Yes, sir.
Interesting.
Yes, sir.
Kingsley said, one interesting thing is that I like the way you are dropping it one after the other, and it reminds me of those days when we sit down, in the moonlight tales to hear some of those, elders dropping some. I don't know. I said this man is a young old man, so. Is it where he's putting his hands like those elders, and he's dropping it one after the other, and when those gesticulations are going on, they are hands of advice. So for you to be able to understand, relate with it and understand, and also learn from the Kingsley. Thank you, thank you so much. Now, okay, I have few questions for you today, but before I dive into this,
Yes, sir.
what inspired Expedier? How did you come about this? In just maybe 1 or 2 minutes, just 1 minute or so. How did you come about Expedier?
Maybe one day I get to tell the full story.
Yeah.
But
I think we will have a section for that. Yes.
Yes.
We will have a section for that.
When I immigrated to Canada 6 years ago, I struggled financially. Okay, I struggled. I didn't anticipate that because by the grace of God, I've lived in 15 nations globally. I've lived pretty much everywhere in the world. So in my head, Canada is like everywhere else I've been. So nothing prepared me for the uniqueness of Canada. And oh my, it is very unique. And so I struggled financially, right? And then in the midst of that struggle, I realized that there wasn't a black-focused financial institution. There wasn't a financial institution that was undergirding our existence in Canada. And more so because other demography also has their own financial institutions, right? But none for us. And that was one of the many things that inspired me to say it's time for us to have ours, to undergird our success, to support us financially. Because at the end of the day, it is he who controls the money that dictates it too.
That's right. Like blowing the piper, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I would sincerely, I would love to have you in my show, the Talk Your Own Show, where we'll be able to discuss it, or possibly we'll have you in the business hub, so we'll be able to discuss more, because I think I am really interested in this. So I think it's very important, and a lot of people need to hear this story, So and it's not something we just touch and go. So I think I would love to dedicate a time for that. Okay, now looking at as a renowned entrepreneur, an innovator, how do you think your experiences as a Black Canadian have actually shaped your approach to business and leadership?
I've heard it being said that there is systemic barriers. But beyond hearing it, I've experienced it firsthand in different dimensions. And I told myself the honest truth. I had a few options. Option number one is to let sleeping dog lie. I met it, what can I do? Option number two was to say, no, there's something that can be done. But more so, option number three was, we can actually prove these systemic barriers wrong. We can actually show that we have value, we have impact, we have a stake, we bring a lot of resources with us, right? Yeah. And so for me, one of the things that it has helped me to do was to go beyond and above right? And to learn to be resilient, because oftentimes as a black entrepreneur, you will hear no. The doors will be shut in your face. At that point, you will have to decide, do I give up or do I persevere? And for me, it has made me persevere to say, as a black entrepreneur, I have to work twice as hard as anybody else. I have to work much more than anybody else. And in that working much more is where you begin to breed black excellence.
I hear you. I hear you. Your work in fintech,
Yes, sir.
digital banking,
Yes, sir.
has been groundbreaking.
Yes, sir.
How do you see your innovations impacting the financial lives of black Canadians and the underrepresented groups?
Powerful question. According to the government of Canada, statistically speaking, almost 20% of Canadians are grossly underserved financially, and 3% are underbanked. That number that I just called, be it the 3% or the 20%, are mostly BIPOC, people that look like you and I. Yes. And one of the biggest barriers to our financial well-being in Canada is that the North American system is a credit-driven system. Credit history, credit number, credit card, line of credit. Everything is credit-based. Right?
I heard you rejected credit when you came in, right? Okay, so let's not.
We'll come to that story. Right? Now, many of us are also immigrants, right? We came in our 30s, in our 40s, in our 50s, right?
Yeah.
And then you tell the credit system, it's only at 50 that I'm starting my credit history. Because they will tell you, no, something is wrong. So by default, we are high risk. And because we are high risk, we do not have the same financial access as others have. And because of that, our financial well-being is at risk. So for us at Expedier, we built this platform that helps us to not just create wealth for our folks, but helps us to actually liberate our financial well-being. I'll just give you a tip of the iceberg. Many of us, when we immigrate here, you will end up paying rent. Hardly does anybody immigrate and they buy a house, right?
Yeah.
We pay rent for maybe 2, 3, 4, upwards of 5 years, right? That rent is paying your landlord's mortgage.
That's right.
True of us.
True.
But it's only providing you with shelter, right? But do you know, sir, that your rent is credit worthy? But neither your landlord nor your bank will report it for you to build your credit history, your credit file, such that 5 years down the line, when you are ready to buy your house, you have a robust credit file. But 5 years later, when you want to buy your house, the same bank will tell you you don't have enough credit history, even though you've been paying your rent month on month without fail for 5 years. We are challenging that. So with Expedia now, when users pay their rent, for example, through the Money app, right, we report that for them to continue to establish, build, and enhance their credit history.
Interesting.
So somebody with a low credit score, say 600 or 650, could go upwards to 700, 750 in a matter of a year or two.
So Expedia has that as part of what it does.
Yes,
to make
that's
sure.
just one of the many things we do.
Good to know.
Yes, sir.
Now, what inspired you to champion the first BIPOC-focused digital bank in Canada? What actually inspired you? What do you hope to achieve with this initiative?
Well, thank you for that question. Up until 2022, there were about 2 major minority groups in Canada that did not have their own financial institution. Okay? One was the Jews and one was us, the blacks. But in 2022, the Jews floated their own financial institution and left us. 2022, yes, 2 years ago. Right? And left us. So now we are the only ones. Okay? Now, why would the Jews want to do that? Yes, because by doing that, they have created systemic wealth for the Jews. within the Jewish community because they are serving exclusively the Jews. Does that make sense? Correct. So for us at Expedier, we have also created that financial institution that undergirds and serves us, the blacks. Up until then, if you wanted a car loan, you didn't have a bank or a financial institution that looked like me or like you and I, that spoke like you and I. If you needed a mortgage, you couldn't get that easily as well.
Sorry for interjecting. You know, but hearing this line of thought, one of the things that rings in my mind, maybe softly, it's the tender voice of racism.
So, years back, okay,
if the Jews had to, for their community, black for their community, meanwhile we preach, you know, DEI, right?
Oh no, DEI died long time ago. So, donkey years ago, the government of Canada realized that the big banks may not sufficiently serve everybody.
Okay.
And they passed a law that allowed any community, any group, any demography to register, establish, and run their own financial institution in Canada.
When was this?
It was in the early 1900s.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, quite long time ago. Okay, and a lot of this demography decided to bet theirs. For example, today we hear of this bank in what's it now? Desjardins. Okay, Desjardins started as a small community financial institution for the French. Today it's a national bank. Okay, so you have many of that. It's normal. For example, many of the credit unions you see are serving a similar purpose. They were formed to serve a particular group, a demography. So it's quite allowed, right? It's normal. Okay? But today, we are the only ones that don't have ours.
So it's our fault?
To a large extent, yes. And that's what we have come to solve. To say it's time for us to have ours that understands us. When you say how far, I will understand the how far. Yeah, there's a difference. Then when you're trying to speak and I have a different accent, a different intonation.
I'm trying to understand that first.
I'm trying to understand that first.
Before
I don't understand where you came from, your background. It's difficult to serve you. But when you come, say, bros, how you doing?
What happened? You know what you're saying now, because I've also, let me put it this way, being of the know that there are some people who have signed certain things in the bank when they came in, not understanding what the fellow talking to them was saying.
Yes.
Okay, what did he say? Okay, let's just say, oh, is that what I signed for? I didn't know what he was taking. I didn't understand his language. He was sounding so.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. I was at a place 2 weeks ago, and a white lady was talking to a black guy, and I could tell the black guy was not understanding what was being said. So I had to interrupt. Call the guy and say, this is what is being said. Spoke it in a way that you understand. They said, oh, is that what? I said, now you know.
Viewers, please permit us. We're going on a break right now. Thank you.
This is Community Circle.
All right, viewers, welcome back. This is still the Community Circle, and I still have with me here Mr. Kingsley, the man that is pulling great stunts, man. Kingsley, in fact, we had to go on break because that energy and fire was very high, and the intensity was too heated. Please let us go and cool off, man. Okay, now I want you to talk to me, and how do you navigate the challenges of being black entrepreneur in a predominantly white industry? And what advice would you give to others facing similar obstacles?
How do you navigate that? One, you need to navigate that by really being excellent at what you do.
Being excellent.
You just have to be excellent at what you do. You have to go beyond and above with what you do, right? And that's the honest truth, because it's who we are. We're excellent. It's what we bring to the table, right? And then, as I said earlier, I also say we bring our resilience to the table.
Resilience.
Right? It's no small feat for us to leave our African land, get on a plane, fly thousands of miles to a place you've never been to, you don't know, in the hopes of a greener pasture. You must be a daredevil to start with. So if you've already done that, why then come here and settle for less? Continue to be resilient.
That's right.
Yeah, continue to show that. Right? And that's my advice to everybody.
Interesting.
Yes.
Now, looking at Black History Month,
Yes, sir.
what ways do you think that Black History Month can be leveraged to promote greater diversity, equity, and what inclusion, like we say, in the Canadian tech and finance sectors?
You see, what you're doing here is one of the many ways, right, where we spotlight Black excellence. And if we can get more of that, where we use that opportunity to spotlight Black excellence, it helps. Last year, Black History Month, I was featured by CTV, right? And that is a way of spotlighting and showing the world that there is also inclusion beyond the Black narrative, right? Programs like that speak to that excellence, but more so, let me borrow the same word you use, leverage. This is also an opportunity for us Blacks to use it to also not just to showcase ourselves, but to showcase that we also have the capacity to showcase others. Because the person that is the one doing the showcase is the one that has the upper hand.
All right. Your success has been recognized through numerous awards, and features in prominent media outlets. How do you stay humble? How do you stay focused on your mission to drive positive change?
Humility got me here. Humility and more of it is what is going to take me further. It's not optional. I was at an interview a few months back and I was asked a similar question but in a different dimension. And I told the lady, I said, yes, we'll be recognized. Google has recognized us, partnered with us. Global financial institutions have recognized us, partnered with us. MasterCard, Equifax, I could go on and on and on. But the one thing I tell people, like, for us and for me, every day is day one. Meaning we've not even started. So if you've not started, why are you being proud? If you're still at rock bottom, why are you being proud? Wait, when you get there, then you can be proud. But then, because every day is day one, even when we get there, it will still be.
I told you this man is an elder in a young man's clothing. Okay. Now, looking at certain roles you have played, what role do you believe mentorship and community support play in empowering Black entrepreneurs and innovators? How do you pay it forward?
Wow. Mentorship is key without it being gainsaid. If we guide the younger generation properly, they will achieve even more than us. And that can only be achieved through mentorship. So I'm a firm believer in mentorship and what it can result into. Okay. For me, I spent a sizable chunk of my time in mentorship services. I am an entrepreneurial advisor, right, with at least 2 startup programs in my region, Waterloo, where I spend time coaching, advising younger mentors. I spend a lot of time coaching and advising students in particular. In fact, I just did a program 2 days ago on Sunday for free, where we brought a bunch of students together in a hall, and I was helping them determine their future in Canada. In fact, when we finished, one of them asked a question. He said, "Are you not the CEO of Expedier?" I said, "Yes." He said, "How come you didn't even mention Expedier throughout?" I said, "Because I didn't bring you here to tell you about Expedier. I brought you here to mentor you for your future. They are 2 different things." So for me, it really matters a lot. I'm a product of mentorship. I know the impact. And I continue to say, let's mentor our folks. So if you are in the position to mentor, please mentor. Sometimes it's in a structured environment. Sometimes it's in everyday interactions that you mentor people.
Yeah.
Right? The ability to speak a word, to guide. Even just observing you alone, someone can get inspired. That's mentorship.
In a community where, most times a lot of people love to be on their own.
Correct.
They want to keep their expertise to themselves. Let this my brother not come and be better than me. In mindset. So here, swim yourself and see where you get to and get out.
I know.
So in our community that we've learned, would I call it we've imbibed the culture of here everybody's on their own. I don't know my neighbor doesn't know me.
Correct.
So my brother, here is not Africa. So some of that is all. Apart from when sometimes we meet in events and gatherings, and we all put on smiling faces, hug as if we love one another. But after that, the real interest is not there.
Yes.
No roadmap for what we want our community to be.
Yes.
I'm talking about Black excellence.
Yes. You are shaking the...
I'm trying not to be too... I'm just... the table.
On Sunday, when I was speaking to the group, I told them, I said, look, you can take a man out of Africa, but taking Africa out of the man is a different thing entirely. Okay? And I told them, I said, the mindset you had in Africa was okay. It's a mindset that allowed you to survive in Africa. Make sense? But here, that mindset does not work because it's an African mindset meant for Africa. Here, you need to take on a North American mindset meant for North America. In Africa, if you knew A, you hide it. You don't share. Because there were scarce resources and 200 million people competing for the scarce resources. Here, there's an abundance mentality. And that's why you find other demography bonding together, helping each other, supporting each other, sharing ideas. And that's because they've learned that mindset. One of the biggest things we can do to ourselves, sir, is by sharing knowledge, is by mentoring others. Your light does not dim my light. In fact, as your light is shining brighter, it makes mine shine brighter.
I see most people get angry when you should be celebrating the light of your brother.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we should. Because
I prefer to give it to another color than you.
No. Because, sir, you know that people can't tell the difference between me and you when they look at our face. They see black. That's what they see. They don't see the difference. It's us that know the difference. But when others look at us, when they look at you and look at me, they see the same face. They can't tell the facial differences. So for all they care, it's the same set of people. So, if you're therefore doing well, it's us doing well. Does that make sense?
How do I let you know that this grant is for all of us when it's I'm privy to it, and if all of us go into it, it will be divided.
We don't need all of us to go into it. I'll tell you a bittersweet story. a particular grant in my region, and about 15 different African communities applied for the same grant. The grant organizer said, even if we gave it all of you to be so diluted, it won't make any impact. So what do? They closed the grant and nobody got it.
So that's the reason some people don't share.
But that's where we are missing it. Could we not have come together and presented a united front? And one gets it. But we know that it will spread to all of us.
What's the roadmap of this spreading? Have we built it? Have we created it?
We are building it. It's what's happening in Brampton. It's what's happening in Waterloo. It's what's happening in other regions. We're beginning to wake up. We're beginning to realize it.
I like the fact that we are beginning.
We are beginning.
We are beginning. So
Yes.
there's light.
I tell folks, I said 5 years from now, it won't be the same story. I'm very confident of that.
I agree with you. As we bring this to a close, 2 questions I have for you. Number 1, as a leader in the fintech space, how do you see technology and innovation addressing systemic barriers
Correct.
to financial inclusion and economic mobility for Black Canadians?
Correct. So, as immigrants, we are primarily travelers. All right? Now, when we leave Africa to come here, we still have our roots there. Daddy is still there. Mommy is still there. Uncle, brother, sister is still there.
Yeah.
We still have to support them. Right?
That's right.
Correct. But the banking system is regionalized at best. We need a banking system that can easily tie all of our
Branches.
together in one place. That's technology. That's innovation. That's what we've done with Expedier. So with Expedier now, it doesn't matter where you are. You still have your Nigerian bank inside the app. You have CAD inside the app. You have the USD from US inside the app. You have Europe. You have other African nations all inside the app. So anyone you want to use and operate, easily it's there. It's technology that can help us develop that inclusion for us, that solves us and gives us that financial liberation.
I can't wait for us to have that discussion on your creation of Expedia. So there's so much to say about Expedia that I think
So much.
even a lot of people don't know what that could do, or the ability that carries, or capacity that is in Expedia. So I think we need to have a time to share that more.
Yes.
And lastly, looking ahead to the future, what are your hopes, your aspirations for the next generation of Black Canadian entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders?
I'm looking forward to a time when there is greater unity amongst us as a people, when we present a united front and we are making waves from that front. I'm looking forward to a time when we are movers and shakers in almost every sector of the industries or human existence in Canada: finance, legal, politics, medical, everywhere. We are there in the forefront, right? But particularly because of what we do at Expedier, I'm looking forward to that time when everybody in Canada will say, yes, I know that a Black bank exists. I know that if I walk in there, I get easier financing. I can get my mortgage in 1 day. I can get my car loan in 1 hour. I can get things moving for me. I can get a business loan just like that. And build that system that empowers us financially to thrive. That is my biggest dream for Canada and for us as Blacks in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Kingsley Madu.
Thank you, sir.
Madu, it's nice having you today on the Community Circle.
Thank you, sir.
And it's been a beautiful time. So
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for
so
such an insightful one.
Thank you,
And we look forward to other opportunities where we could be able to discuss more, especially on what we have talked about. And
Thank you so
Expedia.
much, sir.
Because that story, we need you to share it here.
I'll be more than willing to. Thank you, sir.
So viewers, that's our show for today. Thank you for being part of Community Circle. We look forward to seeing you soon with another great guest with us here in the studio. Cheers.
This is Community Circle.